On Friday, July 28th, 2023, in Antioch, Tennessee, a 29-year-old woman, April Holt, had planned to meet her mother at a church for a lock-in event, but she didn't show up. They were also supposed to go watch a Barbie movie together the following day, but April canceled the plans with her mother, insisting that she would attend her son's football game instead. Her mother had taken a shower after a successful event at the church, and she was relaxing at home. She suddenly received a call from April's husband. The husband told her that April was found unresponsive in the bathroom of her home with a plastic bag taped tightly around her neck. She was transported to a hospital, where she was pronounced dead. April was a joyful, ambitious, caring, and a hard-working mother of 2 children. Her untimely death shook the entire community, and it was later determined that someone strangled her in her own bathroom. Who murdered April Holt? Join us as we tell her story. April Lynn Holt was born on July 6, 1994 in Altamonte Springs, Florida, to her mother, Jamie Woods. Her mother, Jamie, got pregnant with her while still in high school, and at that time she was living in Chicago. Jamie then moved to Florida, and that was where she met a man named Jeremiah Dickerson. The two got into a relationship and together raised April. They were also blessed with other 2 male children, Dominic and Jared, who became April's younger siblings. When April was 12 years old, the family moved to Laverne, Tennessee, and they stayed in the greater Nashville area. As April was growing up, she became a person who was self-driven in life and an outgoing introvert. She loved reading, journaling, and she also loved being at home with her family. April was homeschooled. Later on, after graduating from high school, she ventured into business. She opened her own lash studio, which became a huge success thanks to her hard work and determination. When April was not working on her business, she was on TikTok making contents. She had almost 200,000 following on TikTok. The contents she was making on TikTok were about self-growth, positivity, and spiritual affirmations, and she provided her audience with tips on how to level up in life. She also did contents about faith. April was blessed with a child named Serenity. She gave birth to Serenity when she was only 17 years old. She felt that she was too young to give her the life that she deserved, so she allowed her parents to adopt her baby, Serenity, when she was born. As her parents, Jamie and Jeremiah, helped her in raising her daughter, Serenity, April also stepped in and helped them in whatever way she could. April had initially met a man named Donovan Holt, and they were good friends. However, around 2014, the two started dating each other, and they ended up marrying each other and settling down at Antioch, Tennessee, a neighborhood in southeastern Nashville. Together, they were blessed with a son named Denzel, who happened to be April's second child and Donovan's first child with her. April was now in a better place to take care of her 2 children, and she made a lot of sacrifices to ensure that they got what was best for them. Even when her son, Denzel, was diagnosed with Tourette's syndrome, she made a lot of sacrifices to have him homeschooled. Everything were moving on well between them, and they talked a lot about their relationship on TikTok. And from the outside, they appeared to be a really strong couple. They were very connected, and they had a lot of good advice to give to people. Soon, everything started changing between this couple. In the public, that is on TikTok, they were giving the public the impression that things were going on well between them. But from inside, everything started changing. Donovan started changing his behaviors, and he even forgot his roles as the man of the house. He was not paying the bills in the house anymore, and April had to step in and pay the heavy bills all by herself. Donovan then warned April's first child, Serenity, not to call him her father because he was not her biological father. He started being obsessed and manipulative towards April. Things were not okay, and there were many red flags that could not have been ignored. When enough was enough, the two started going through the separation process. And in October of 2021, April posted a video on TikTok with Donovan, where the two of them discussed the fact that they were getting a divorce, and it was a mutual decision between them. The couple ended up separating, but later on, they again got back together, and they continued posting videos with one another on TikTok. Even though they had reunited, things were still not okay between them. But on social media, they continued giving people the impression that they were doing well. However, in April of 2023, April posted a video on TikTok, and she was talking about her struggles with her mental health. She was having mental breakdown and depression, but she didn't told her audience the root cause. The couple were always going through on and off relationship. Donovan had an obsession with April, and even if April tried to leave him, he would often sleep outside of her apartment or sleep in her car if it was unlocked. He was very manipulative, and he pulled April away from her family or things that she loved. There were places that he didn't want her to go, and there were things he didn't want her to do. Apart from that, Donovan also kept April's daughter, Serenity, away from April's parents. In mid-July of 2023, April asked Donovan for a divorce. This time she was serious and she was ready to leave for good, and there was no going back to him. On Friday, July 28th, 2023, April Holt had planned to meet her mother, Jamie Dickerson, at the Blast Classroom of Believers Faith Fellowship in Christiana, Tennessee. They intended to attend a lock-in event together. She didn't attend the lock-in event. April and her mother were also supposed to go to Barbie movie together the following day. Unfortunately, April canceled the movie plans with her mother because her son, Denzel, had a football game and her husband, Donovan, was working. Therefore, he couldn't make it to see their son play. April decided to be there for their son, Denzel. So at 12:59 p.m. that day, she texted her mother, informing her that Denzel had a game at 6 p.m. Therefore, she was sorry that they won't go on a Barbie movie together. However, she told her mother that they should meet at church the following day. Jamie saw April's message after she had taken a shower, and she wanted to relax after doing a lock-in with a bunch of children at the church. She planned to respond to her daughter, April, a little bit later. Unfortunately, about an hour later, Donovan called Jamie, and when she answered the phone, he told her that April was unresponsive and she was not breathing, and an ambulance was rushing her to Southern Hills Hospital. Jamie was shocked. She immediately ran to her car to meet them at the hospital. When heading to the hospital, Jamie was racking her brain, trying to come up with an explanation for what could have happened to daughter April. However, nothing she came up with in her head made any sense. When Jamie arrived at the hospital, she found her daughter, April, on a life support machine. She saw bruising on her neck and ankles. She also saw broken blood vessels in her cheeks, and immediately she knew that someone had done this to her daughter. Shockingly, she was told that her daughter, April, had tried to take her own life. After waiting at the hospital for 6 hours, Donovan narrated to Jamie what happened. But when Jamie saw Donovan's behaviors, she knew that something was off. Donovan told her that he was making lunch for his 7-year-old son, Denzel, and then he asked Denzel to check on his mother, April, because she had supposedly been in the shower for too long. When Denzel walked into the bathroom, he saw his mother unresponsive with a black trash bag over her head that had been duct taped around her neck. So Donovan called 911 and the ambulance came for April. Jamie knew that her daughter April did not commit suicide because she would never leave her children like that. So there was something someone was hiding from her. While Jamie was in the hospital room, Donovan gave him April's phone and told her that she could make all medical decisions going forward. Jamie felt like Donovan was being cold and distant. She felt like he didn't want to have any part in the situation, that he didn't even want to be around April. Jamie said that Donovan left the hospital 3 times to go back to the apartment the day that the incident happened, and he never gave an explanation as to why. And he did that before police were even able to go over there to gather evidence. The police went to the scene 6 hours later, and during Donovan's interview with the police, he never mentioned to them that April had a trash bag taped around her neck. Jamie also said that Donovan was just going on and on about how April wasn't acting like herself that day. He was trying to push the narrative that April had taken her own life to everyone. Later on, Jamie learned from her grandson, Denzel, that earlier on the morning of his mother's death, she and his dad, Donovan, had gotten into a big argument in the bathroom. Denzel told Jamie that he had gotten down on the floor and was trying to look under the door crack to see if he could figure out what was going on because there was some loud noise and intense fighting. Denzel said that at first he could only see the feet of his parents, and after listening a bit longer, he got down on the floor again and looked under the door. He saw his mother lying on the bathroom floor. After seeing that, he went back to his bedroom to wait, and that was when his father, Donovan, left the bathroom and goes with him to make lunch for the two of them. And then shortly, Denzel said that his father asked him to go get her mother, April, and that was when he found her clinging on to life with a trash bag over her head. When April learned that there was a trash bag taped around April's head, she knew that something bad had happened to her, and there was a lot to the story that she was not being told. So found it odd that she was the one called the police to investigate the incident. However, at that point, their main focus as a family was praying for April to recover. But sadly, on July 31st, 2023, April succumbed to her injuries. The family were devastated and very sad as they mourned the death of April Holt. Jamie learned that a week before her daughter's death, Donovan had pawned April's wedding ring, something which made her to become even more suspicious of him. After April's death, her body was taken for an autopsy, and by November of 2023, the medical examiner determined that her cause of death was suffocation, and the manner of her death was suicide. The autopsy recorded marks on her neck, her thighs, and her ankles. She even had a gash on her inner thigh. Even after receiving the report, Jamie didn't let go of her suspicion. Nashville Metro Police Department said law enforcement was not suspicious of any foul play and that April had committed suicide, so they closed the case. Jamie wrote a letter requesting for the reconsideration of suicide as a manner of death. She started seeking justice for the death of her daughter because no news channel or social media was taking on the case. She went to TikTok to create awareness around the case, and her message was about awareness and advocacy for April. She shared countless videos expressing what she believed to be the truth about her daughter's death. She did this so that the public could listen to her. Donovan went and got an attorney, and so the court gave Jamie a gag order, and they told her that she wasn't allowed to talk about April, nor was she allowed to see her grandson Denzel anymore. Because she had a gag order which prevented her from airing her daughter's death on social media, she decided to come up with a new way of letting her voice be heard. She would put a tape over her mouth which read "Justice for April Holt. Help me remove this gag order. Let my silence be heard," among other information. So people were still able to hear her cry for justice. And while she was fighting for justice for her daughter, April Holt, she was also fighting for the custody of her grandson, Denzel. She and Jeremiah had hired an attorney to try and get custody of Denzel. But since April's manner of death was ruled a suicide, the judge granted Donovan full custody of the child, and Jamie was only granted once-a-month visitations. So at that time, they only had custody of April's daughter, 11-year-old Serenity, because they had adopted her a long time ago. Because the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, MNPD, were disregarding her questions and concerns about her daughter's death, Jamie requested the full case file and she started doing her own investigations into the death of her daughter, April Holt. She even launched a formal complaint with the Office of Professional Accountability and the Community Oversight Board. After 4 months of waiting, Jamie received a 47-page report that provided one key piece of information that she didn't have before. In this report, it was determined that 2 of Donovan's fingerprints were found on the duct tape used to tie the plastic bag around April's neck. Unfortunately, an argument erupted that his fingerprints were there from another time that he picked up the roll. Donovan also told authorities that he had removed the duct tape from her neck after he found her, which could be another explanation. But when Jamie learned about the duct tape and Donovan's fingerprints on it, she believed that it was Donovan who put the duct tape around April's neck. So in June of 2024, Jamie decided to confront Donovan about the new information that she had. She sent him a screenshot that showed his fingerprints were on that duct tape, and she gave him 2 options. Option A, he could just tell her the truth. Option B, she could take that information to the cold case unit. Donovan went with option A. He called Jamie and confessed by admitting that he had strangled April, dragged her body to the shower, and taped a plastic bag over her face to make it appear as if she had died by suicide. It was at that point that Jamie learned that her daughter, April, was sexually assaulted by a man whom she providing interior design services to. It was so bad that April went to the hospital the day after it happened. She also learned that her daughter, April, was seeing another man, and she started talking to him again after she had asked Donovan for a divorce. Jamie learned that her daughter, April, had started seeing her other man during her first separation with her husband, Donovan, and apparently Donovan had found out about their relationship. Jamie recorded her conversation with Donovan, and once she had that confession recorded, she took it to the police, who finally agreed to reinvestigate April's case because they didn't have any other choice. The Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, MMPD, obtained their own confession in July, where Donovan admitted to strangling April. In September of 2024, Donovan was arrested in San Antonio, Texas, where he had been living and was later indicted on the charges of reckless homicide, falsifying a report, and tampering with evidence. He was extradited to the Davidson County Jail in Tennessee, where he was held on a $75,000 bond. In that same month, April's manner of death was reclassified to homicide. Donovan's arraignment hearing was scheduled for October 23rd. However, it was unfortunately postponed because apparently the state did got him an attorney at that time. Jamie was looking to have Donovan's charges increased from reckless homicide to first-degree murder. And she also wanted the charge of child endangerment to be added. Jamie worked with a new district attorney, and she was hopeful that justice would be served to her daughter, April Holt. In February 2025, the 33-year-old Donovan Armin Holt was sentenced for the 2023 death of his wife, April Holt. He pleaded guilty to reckless homicide, tampering with evidence, and false reporting. The court imposed the following sentences: reckless homicide, in which he is to serve 2 years and 1 month in the Davidson County Sheriff's Facility; tampering with evidence, which he is to serve 6 years, to be served consecutively to the reckless homicide sentence; and lastly, false reporting, which he is to serve 2 years consecutive to the previous sentences. After serving the incarceration period, Donovan Holt is to undergo community corrections for the duration of his sentences. April's mother, Jamie Dickerson, expressed her frustration with the plea deal, feeling that the charges should have been more severe. She wanted the charges to include first-degree murder and child endangerment, given the circumstances surrounding her daughter's death. Thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe for more stories.